let's kick it off. Film 30, what everyone got wrong about Squid Game, and from what I've heard, he pretty much tries to outline how to win. Here we go.
Thrown into a series of 6 mystery games with 400 other players. A pot of $44 million is on the line.
Whoever said it was going to be 6 games? Maybe it's 6 games because, you know, they managed to wipe out enough people. What if they would have just continued until there were 2 or 1? I mean, you know, we're assuming it's 6 games.
More importantly, if you lose, you die. Other channels have covered the tactics to winning the specific games, and honestly, the show itself does a pretty darn good job of showing you creative solutions to its various puzzles. But today, we're gonna help you survive when you're going in blind, just like the contestants. This is how to survive the Squid Game.
Kill everyone before the first game. Done. Roll credits. Let's go.
Mild spoiler warning for some of the games and strategies. Hello, Internet! Welcome to Film Theory, the show that's brought to you by our totally not made-up sponsor for today's episode, USB Power Banks. Are you an off-duty police officer who went out of your way to infiltrate a secret society running a brutal death game in the hopes of discovering a long-lost family member? If so, a USB Power Bank is the product for you.
The fact that his phone didn't run out of battery and survived all that punishment without even so much as a screen protector, fuck off. I mean, there's bullshit, and then there's bullshit.
Anyway, I finally got around to watching Squid Game, along with most of the rest of the US at this point, and I loved the series. It was tense, it was clever, it was also completely misunderstood by everyone watching it. You see, the thing is being called the next Hunger Games, the new Battle Royale, the cinematic version of Fall Guys. But the thing is, these comparisons really miss the mark because fundamentally, this isn't how the games in the show work. And if you're one of the people making that comparison, it's likely gonna get you killed. Don't worry, most of the characters in the series fell into the same trap, and well, let's just say it didn't end well for him. But have no fear, MatPat is here. By the time you're done with this video, you'll understand the real way to survive the 6 rounds of playground games regardless of what individual challenges you're faced with. So the next time some random guy in a subway offers you 100,000 won to flip his paper square, or when season 2 finally launches, because let's face it, this smash hit is absolutely getting itself a sequel, you'll be prepared to survive the squid. So pay attention. The information today might just save your life and make you rich in the process. For the 10 of you out there who still haven't watched Squid Game, here's the briefest of summaries just so you get through today's theory. Gohan is a down-on-his-luck gambler who's in dire need of some cash. He's got loan sharks after him, his mother can't afford her surgery, and on top of that, he's gonna lose custody of his daughter because he can't afford to pay a lawyer. Desperate, he agrees to play the highest stakes game imaginable. He's whisked away to a remote island with over 400 other competitors where, in order to win, they have to survive 6 different children's games. Some of them are pass-fail challenges like red light, green light, where failure results in execution. Others are player versus player games like Tug of War, where the losing team falls to their death. As for why you'd possibly want to risk your life in a game like this, well, each death adds 100 million won to the prize pool. 100 million won! Can you believe that? Now all of you are scrambling to Google for that conversion rate. Don't worry, I did it too when I was watching the show, and so did everyone else based on the Google Trends search results for won to US dollar conversion.
And I got branded a racist for doing so. Ladies and gentlemen, the internet.
Actually amounts to about $84,000 per death. Considering that there are 456 contestants, you're talking about a potential prize pool of $38 million. But be warned, once you start playing, you're not allowed to stop playing. And
which is around 52 million Australian dollars.
Those who do refuse to play have to worry about clause number 2.
Consent form clause 2. A player who refuses to play will be eliminated.
The bad dub!
They say elimination, they mean a bullet and your head intersecting in an unpleasant way.
I love how no matter what reaction or theory or whatever video it is, it's always the English dub. I don't know why.
Only way out once the games have started is...
Consent form clause 3. If all of the players agree to stop playing, the games are allowed to end.
That's actually...
Excuse me, is this like an anime voice actor? Why does it sound like Lelouch?
A mistranslation, by the way. It's if the majority of players vote to end the game. That's why...
See, this is exactly why I didn't watch the dub. The fucking mistranslations. Like, oh my god. Why would you?
Subs are always better than dubs. So
For once, I agree with the good man.
anyway, with the rules laid out, let's get to the strategy. Like I mentioned before, the players don't know what games they're going to be playing until they get to the Death Island. If they're observant, they can piece together clues based on the wall decorations around them, but still, it's not going to give them much time to prepare or practice. And so that's what we're going to assume today, that we've just signed up and have no idea what's in store for us. In this massive game of death, what should our general strategies be? First, we shouldn't assume that just because people are dying, that this is a death game, because it's not. The rules state
Everyone here will participate in 6 different games. Those who win all 6 games will receive a handsome cash prize.
Wait, so I don't have to kill anyone? Well, shit. Did they actually mention 6 games in episode 1? I totally forgot.
if you survive, you win. And sure, while each death boosts the pot, it's not like a Battle Royale or Hunger Games scenario where there can only be one left standing.
So are you telling me in the tug of war, they could have tied? Like, no one pulls the rope, and then they tie? Otherwise, tug of war would result in half of the people being killed. Know what I mean?
Here, there can be more than one winner, and that's important. It means that the survival of one person, or even a group of people, is not directly negative to your personal survival.
You know what'd be beautiful? In the finale, when the two of them were fighting to the death, they could have literally both just walked. I mean, that would have more than covered the guy's debts, right? Like, I don't remember how much he was in debt, but however much he was in debt would have been covered by half of the prize money. But he still killed himself. He's like, I was like, oh, okay.
Which then opens up the question, should you be sabotaging your fellow players in order to boost the prize pot and advance yourself?
Okay. Makes sense if they're a threat. Not... anyways, remember how the guy at the beginning started backstabbing his friends? Why?
This is a dilemma that actually pops up repeatedly throughout the series. In the second game, Song-woo figures out the game before anyone else does.
And he's a dick about it, because he betrays his friends in, like, the second game. Despite the fact that there's a guy literally starting a gang.
A shape out of a fragile honeycomb candy. Knowing this, he immediately chooses the easiest shape and then encourages the other players on his team to split up, getting them to take shapes that are much more difficult and much more likely to lead to their elimination. Obviously, there's all kinds of moral and ethical reasons why you shouldn't intentionally try to kill other people, but what Song-woo does here in Game 2 is one of the stupidest moves that we see anyone make across the entire series.
Thank you.
The people he chooses to sabotage are people that have agreed to team up with him.
Thank you.
The players who, in the event of a fight, are more likely to have his back as opposed to, say, planting a knife between his shoulder blades. Oh,
thank you!
wait, that's exactly what we see happen. They come to his rescue the following night when everyone tries killing each other. But
I'm kind of upset that they let him live because, you know, kind of had it coming.
teaming up isn't just about keeping people in your personal alliance safe. Keeping more players in the game for longer means more chances for other people to help you survive. Again, take that honeycomb game as the example. In it, players are given a needle to punch out their shape, which is fine for easy shapes like a triangle, but not very effective for the more fragile shapes like the umbrella or star. However, one person in the group, our hero Gian, out of desperation comes up with a completely out-of-the-box strategy, ignoring the needle entirely and licking the candy so the shape can pop out. This, in turn, saves multiple other contestants who copy the strategy, people who otherwise would have been eliminated just like the rest. That's why it's stupid when the players try to kill each other between games 2 and 3, because these are men whose lives were saved by the person that they're now attempting to eliminate. You know what they say, 2 heads are better than 1, so 50 heads should be even better, and 400 heads is even better than that.
But that's assuming rational thinking, and people aren't rational. They could be emotional, and given that they started basically a gang or a pack, they were listening to the pack leader out of fear of being ostracized from the pack. So they just did what the pack leader wanted, which was to attack people. So, I mean, I agree with you. If everyone works together, it'll be great. But look at what humans do in reality. The polar opposite. So, like, yeah, it's only a theory because humans aren't logical.
It's why the internet hive mind is so good at solving puzzles. Everyone brings their own experiences and expertise to the table. So let's just say that you were, I don't know, faced with a challenge that involves jumping across panels of glass, with 50% of those panels being tempered and safe to stand on. Well, it would be really helpful if the group had someone who is a glass expert that could tell the difference between tempered and untempered glass. Oh wait, that's exactly what happens. Except instead of sharing his knowledge, the glass expert hides this fact until the end, after practically all the other players have died. This is stupid, not just from a statistical angle, but also from a strategic one, considering that most of the games are timed. Everyone else, realizing that they're just blindly guessing on a coin flip that could cost them their life, wastes time. Every second that you're hiding your knowledge is a second that the group isn't making progress. As a result, our glassmaker, despite having the knowledge that should have kept him alive through this challenge, ultimately dies because he runs out of time. Had he shared it from the get-go, mostly everyone could have survived what was one of the most disastrous and difficult challenges of the batch. Also,
But don't you think if he did share that knowledge, they would have just turned off the lights like they did originally? And then, okay, he's using sound. Say, for example, he started using people's shoes. You know what I mean? It's not like the people running the game are just going to let these people figure it out and survive. They've repeatedly tried to get people killed. And let people get killed too, you know? This is assuming they'll just let them do it, which they probably won't. Because entertainment, right? Because the objective isn't to give these people a fair game. The objective is to entertain the rich sociopaths watching.
So, can I just digress here for a minute? This one bothered me. I just didn't really like this challenge. I get that it was a cool visual and interesting concept, but the challenge just didn't work for me. It didn't seem to be based on a playground game like all the others. The game makers cheat by turning off the lights midway through, which directly counteracts their whole everyone has a fair chance motto. The whole putting people into a specific order felt unfair, and then the way they conclude it with a giant explosive finale puts everyone's lives at risk. It was just good spectacle, but also something that felt kind of cheap. Alright, rant over. Of course.
Did anyone notice how this was the episode where it started going downhill? Episode 6 was the climax. And up until that point, everything pretty much made sense. Then episode 7, they brought in the VIPs, then introduced the challenge of the glass, like, panels on the bridge. And everything just felt a little bit different. Like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? It just went downhill at that point.
Of course, there is the elephant in the room. Every player who dies adds more money to the prize pot, but that's the wrong way to think about it. Let's assume that, like we see in the show, there are 6 rounds, and that there will be at least 3 games that require 50% of the players to be eliminated. This would be games like tug-of-war and marbles, where some amount of death is guaranteed. That means that your portion of the prize pot is already going to be sitting at a hefty 800 million won, 668,000 US dollars, even before any additional deaths from the other games. If you're someone like Gian, who has loan sharks to pay off, a family member surgery to pay for, and an ex-spouse to fight in court, that amount should cover everything while still leaving you with enough to make a down payment on a new house. There's
A hitman would be cheaper.
also an economic principle called the law of diminishing utility, which states that if someone is down on their luck, having an extra $80,000 is a huge, massive deal. If you're Gian, that money has a lot of use. But if you're already standing to win over $600,000, another $80K on top is certainly nice, but no longer is the life-changing sum of money that it once was. Once your basic needs are met, as income increases, you gain a correspondingly smaller and smaller increase in your life satisfaction.
Again, you're applying logic and rationale to emotional creatures which are humans, trying to survive a situation where they think only one person can survive. Or they're trying to get someone else to die so they survive, thinking it's going to improve their chances, which it doesn't.
You get a slightly nicer car, a slightly nicer house. Therefore, it's not something that's worth risking your life over. This is surprisingly a topic that the last episode focuses on, though for spoiler reasons, I'm not going to play the clip. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that any winner of the Squid Games shouldn't have that money, but what I am saying is that there's a tipping point where each additional dollar earned is less and less worth risking your own life to achieve.
And that's around $1 million. You actually hear billionaires saying that their quality of life hasn't improved dramatically over the $1 million mark. It was like, yes, I now have $1 billion, but as a result of those $1 billion, I have to do all of these following things which I didn't have to do when I had millions of dollars, like, you know, private security and all these other things. So it stopped being a thing of convenience and start being a thing of necessity, because if they don't do it, you know, someone's going to kidnap their spouse or children and hold them ransom, you know? Whereas the guy with a few $1 million that just flies under the radar, no one realizes that he's a millionaire because, you know, he's not showing it off.
By just playing the game with survival as your first priority, you wind up with plenty of money to change your situation while also minimizing your risk of losing that life so, you can go on and spend it. Obviously, there's gonna be rounds where you're forced to fight for your life and eliminate other players, but if you don't have to kill people, then don't. Never thought that's a sentence I'd have to say, but here we are. But there is one big concern that you have to be aware of. Clause number 3. At any point, the players can vote on whether or not to end the game. If the majority of players want out, that causes the game to end not just for them, but for everyone. In order for you to walk home with your money, you have to complete 6 games. But people will probably vote to escape the games if they're put into a position where they're almost certainly gonna die. So with that in mind, let's go back to the glass bridge.
But they already had that vote, which they voted to end the game, and then the people went back. That's assuming they didn't have that vote. Anyone that came back to the games after having already left would have come to the decision that they're willing to risk their lives. So what, they're going to have a vote for the second time and decide that they're not willing to risk their lives anymore, even though they've survived this far? I'm sorry, but I'm willing to argue that the people that have come back into the game and survived additional rounds and are several steps closer to getting the money would be incentivized to continue playing due to loss aversion. Which is, again, another psychological concept within humans, which is irrational. But you get what I mean. Humans, irrational. That's why we suck. Just look at society.
Unless you have outside knowledge of what tempered and untempered glass looks like, the game is generally decided by random coin flips. And by coin flips, I mean the first few people in line coming down with a mild case of death for the good of the group. In the challenge, there are 18 sets of panels. Worst case scenario, you have 18 deaths. The best case scenario is 0 deaths, with the person in front correctly guessing every time, but fat chance there. As player number 3 correctly estimates when he's 3 panels in,
probability that I'll get everything right is
Hey, you got this!
1 in 32,768.
overall, if you're first in line, you have a 1 in 262,144 chance of survival. The average here is 9 deaths, with the probability distribution curve basically looking like a bell curve, which you can see using any binomial visualization tool. You have one of those handy, right? Using that probability chart, we can see that the first 6 people in line are basically screwed, having less than a 5% chance to survive, while the people going 13th and later have a 95% or better chance to survive. But even if you're trapped in the game with no calculator, it doesn't take a whole lot of brain power to determine that you do not want to be one of the first 9 people to play. So you, as a smart player, hopefully chose not to be one of the first few people in line, but even if you're feeling good about your odds of survival, remember that for you to actually make it across the bridge, you need the game to happen. Let's say that the game has been reduced to 13 players, and you're lucky enough to be 13th in line. That's good news for you. You have 95% odds to survive. However, you probably won't make it across the bridge for the simple reason that there are good odds that the first 7 people in line are gonna nope the heck out of there, going with a majority vote to end the game, meaning that even though you had the ideal position and would have won, you get nothing. Good day, sir. And
Even though they continue to play it, because fucking humans.
you see, this is exactly what could have happened in the show. 16 players remaining, knowing that the first 9 were likely to die, they could have voted to end the game right then and there, and because they were in the majority, clause number 3 would have been enacted. Game over. Now let's take the alternate scenario. Let's assume knowledge was shared and everyone's cooperating. At this point, there would have been 2 50% elimination games, tug of war and marbles. In the best case scenario, 456 players would have been reduced to 114. By the
I would have been impressed if someone made a video on how to win the marbles game.
time you get to the bridge, even if every single one of those first 18 people in line got cold feet, they wouldn't have enough votes to end the game. And instead of most of them being wiped out, we'd expect an average of 9 of those players, or 8% of the 114 player group, to get eliminated. 92% of players surviving to get past this game, pretty darn good odds. In short, your chances of survival increase the more people are around you to take the blows. So now that we've spent a lot of time talking about what not to do, what can you do to increase your odds of surviving in Squid Game? Apart, of course, from playing nice with your fellow competitors. Well, the first one is obvious. Don't panic.
Well, I mean, great example, right? As soon as the first person got shot, everyone lost their shit, right? Every good plan goes to crap when you get punched in the face. Or, like, the first person gets shot in front of you. I mean, let's face it, humans.
Red light, green light is an easy game, and the timer was very generous as long as you stay calm and you use your time wisely. Also, just like with the 3 clauses, make sure that you're paying attention to the game's rules. For instance, we see Songwoo cheat at marbles by misdirecting his partner, but his method for collecting 20 marbles doesn't actually involve breaking any of the rules that are established by the game master.
Player who manages manages to take all 10 marbles from their partner wins.
Repeatedly throughout the series, we see players presented with an obvious solution, like the needle in the honeycomb game, and they just assume that because this is the default or recommended way to play the game, it must therefore be the only way to play the game. But rarely is that the case. You can lie to your partner and take his marbles. You can lick your candy until the sugar melts. The problem everyone falls into is that they assume certain rules are there when in fact they're not. In the Glass Bridge episode, we see that Gion was able to take a single marble as a keepsake with him, which ended up being relevant in that very game. A second, third, or 20 more marbles could have come in real handy with that one. Also with that Glass Bridge, the rules just state that you have to jump from panel to panel.
For this game, you will guess which one of the next 2 tiles is the tile made of the stronger tempered glass, and only step on those across the 18 pairs of tiles.
But nothing said that you had to land on the middle of each panel. Landing with your feet on the supporting bars holding up the glass is going to reduce the weight on that glass, ultimately helping resist the breakage. Is it breaking the rules? I don't know. Honestly, I don't think so. But here's the thing, you know that you're going to die if you choose wrong, so why not try pushing the edges of the rules just a little bit when there's nothing else to lose? By taking a moment to think about the actual hard rules of the game and not automatically dismissing unconventional solutions by assuming that anything else isn't allowed, you might actually be able to find the loophole that allows you to survive. Lastly, use your surroundings. Not only are the walls giving you clues, but your clothes, the bed, the springs, and the mattresses, all of it could potentially prove useful. Were you given a glass bottle yesterday as a part of your meal? Instead of breaking it to try and shank your opponents, why not bring it with you to your next game? Tug of war. Throw it onto your opponent's platform to throw them off balance, or put glass under their feet. Maybe cut the rope so neither side loses. Another thing that I want to get off my chest, this is just a terrible idea.
I think that doll senses when you move around.
That person in front of you is going to stop at times that you don't expect or anticipate. If they get shot, that bullet might go through them and pierce you, or their dead body might knock into you. And instead of focusing on the game itself, you're going to be focused on another person as you run down that field, which is not where your attention needs to be. In short, your number one strategy to surviving the Squid Game should be to ignore Sung-woo.
I think it would put us at a disadvantage if we just choose one. You think?
For being the smartest person in the room, all of his ideas are dumb. I guess except for the tug-of-war game. Anyway, if you happen to meet a well-dressed man in a train station who invites you to throw squares of paper at each other, now you know what to do. And that's to say no. Because unless your desire to win more than $500,000 is greater than your desire to have more than a 12% chance of surviving the next week of your life, it's not gonna be worth it. But hey, that's just a theory. A film theory. And here's a game for you. Press that subscribe button as fast as you can. See how many times you can press it before this video ends. Maybe you'll end up subscribed to this channel, maybe you won't. We'll find out together. It'll give me the weirdest data for unsubbed, resubbed to a video of all time. YouTube Analytics is gonna be so mad at me for this one.
Right. Well, all in all, let's be honest. It wasn't a perfect show. It wasn't the best show. And would people rewatch it? Maybe, maybe not. But hey, it was fun the first time, right? It was. And like many movies and TV shows, we're sometimes yelling at the screen going, why aren't you doing this? Why are you running away from the killer? Why aren't you kicking him, you know? Why aren't you shooting him? You know, things like that. And, well, let's face it. If everyone in the TV shows did what we would want them to do, it wouldn't be nearly as entertaining. And would we do something rational in a situation like this? Maybe, maybe not. We've all made stupid decisions when we were panicked or emotional, so, you know. Plus, going into shock, not fun, not fun. All right, guys, thank you for that. Let's wrap it up. I'm going to edit this out, upload this on YouTube reactions as normal. I did upload the Squid Game reactions on YouTube. People were enjoying them. The uncut reaction is on Patreon. The uncut anime reactions are on Patreon, and I'm slowly uploading all the anime edited reactions on YouTube one by one. It's becoming a fun time, as you can imagine. I'll show you now. You're gonna laugh at this. Sony, even today, claims a video. You've got, what, 62 seconds of background music within an hour-long video? Guess what? Copyright claim. So it becomes a process of uploading, editing out claimed shit, re-uploading, editing out whatever they claim, uploading, editing out whatever they claim, and then sometimes by the end of it, you've uploaded something with 0 claims, and as soon as you release it, they claim something. So it's just try and try again, trial and error, and the YouTube system doesn't help it, but it is what it is. So if you're patient, it'll be up on YouTube. If you're not patient, just head over to Patreon. And you can watch the uncut reactions as well as pretty much voting on what we